Taiwan, I'm Yvonne Yang with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Reservist units are now training in how to operate drones, a new step in President Lai Ching-te's plan to improve Taiwan's defensive capabilities amid increasing threats from China. More on this from our reporter Larry Isiana, who was there in Yilan.
President Lai Ching-te is visiting reservist units here on Taiwan's east coast as they carry out drone training exercises, part of the military's expansion in this field. Lai recently announced a $40 billion special defense budget, and Taiwan has rolled out major drone procurement plans, boosted benefits for specialist units, and is now training reservists to operate drone systems.
我们将无人机的操作与应用纳入后备部队的训练，这项变革是国军后备训练的新的里程碑。
All of this, part of a broader push to strengthen the country's defenses in the face of growing threats from China, which claims Taiwan and has not ruled out taking it by force. The president says the country plans to be ready to respond to a potential invasion by 2027, even as Taiwan faces daily gray zone threats in the air, at sea, and online. But the Defense Ministry is betting on drones to help with reconnaissance, intelligence gathering, and long-distance weaponry. The Defense Ministry is set to acquire nearly 49,000 domestically made drones over the next 2 years, 34,000 first-person view drones, along with around 5,000 bombers and medium and small-range loitering munitions, as well as more than 700 coastal surveillance drones. All drones would be 100% free of Chinese components. Meanwhile, Vice President Bi Kim Hsiao told Natalie Winters in a sit-down interview for the War Room that Taiwan hopes to further collaborations with the U.S. on drone development. Much of the world's drone supply chain currently depends on China, leading countries to seek alternative sources. Taiwan has already signed agreements with several European nations to provide drones that are 100% free of Chinese supply chains, and the country is also planning an industrial park in Chiayi to manufacture drones. Although less glamorous than displays of air power and big-ticket naval combat drills, these training exercises are crucial to Taiwan's overall defense strategy. The president says the goal is to make sure that reservists are training regularly on new equipment, so that if a conflict ever were to break out, Taiwan would be fully prepared for whatever comes its way. John Su and Larry Isiano in Yilan, Taiwan for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan has been closely watching 2 elections in other parts of the world. That's because changes in leadership in those countries could also mean changes in their diplomatic relations with Taiwan. Kenneth Coranta has more.
The results of several recent elections in the Caribbean and Central America could potentially have significant effects on Taiwan's diplomacy and its diplomatic allies. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, one of Taiwan's current diplomatic allies, a political party that has previously said they supported cutting ties with Taiwan has won the country's recent election, its leader just sworn in as prime minister. Although the party hasn't commented on this issue since the polls closed, and it wasn't something brought up during their campaign this year, it does raise questions about the stability of Taiwan's ties with a country under new leadership that has indicated wavering support in the past. Despite that, Taiwan's foreign ministry appears confident that ties remain stable. It emphasized Taiwan's ambassador to the country had already met with the newly elected prime minister to congratulate him, and also said this.
台湾与圣国建交44年来，两国邦谊笃睦，关系深厚。我国的大使馆与圣国的朝野各界人士也都保持良好的互动以及情谊，所以我国也会在既有的良好合作基础之上，继续与新政府紧密合作，深化双边的关系。
And in Honduras, vote counting is underway in another election that could also carry great weight for Taiwan, the country's presidential race. Honduras is not a diplomatic ally, having cut ties with Taiwan in 2023 in favor of China. But on the presidential campaign trail, 2 of its 3 front-runners indicated their support for reestablishing ties with Taipei. And with around half of the votes tallied as of now, those 2 pro-Taiwan candidates appear to be in the lead. Analysts say there's a sense of disappointment with voters over how relations with China have hit Honduras' economy. Since 2023, Honduras' shrimp industry has collapsed, and its trade deficit with China has only increased. With so much at stake, Taiwan's foreign ministry said Tuesday that it's paying close attention to the results. It also used the situation to criticize China, suggesting it's an unreliable diplomatic partner.
那这种情况呢，实际上是再一次印证中国始终未能够善意履行承诺，同时也印证了若干国家的外交转向，在与中国建交之后，简单的说就是 未蒙其利，先受其害。同时，也再次暴露出中国在国际社会上处心积虑、积极打压台湾的国际空间。
China claims Taiwan as part of its territory under its One China principle, meaning diplomatically, countries are forced to pick a side. There are currently only 12 countries that give diplomatic recognition to Taiwan instead of China. That number has sharply declined in recent years from over 20 in 2016, as China increasingly puts pressure on countries to switch. So those that have kept or are thinking about reestablishing ties with Taiwan are being closely watched, especially around election time when foreign policy can change. Despite that, it's no guarantee that past statements or statements made on the campaign trail will turn into concrete foreign policy changes. So we'll just have to wait and see how things actually play out. Scott Huang and Cadence Quaranta for TaiwanPlus.
St. Lucia's ruling party has maintained its legislative majority in elections this week, meaning the country's prime minister is set to stay in power. The governing Labour Party won at least 13 out of 17 seats in the legislature's lower house. During the campaign, Prime Minister Philippe Pierre called for stable economic management, while the opposition made the island's citizenship by investment program a central issue, advocating for more transparency. St. Lucia has official diplomatic relations with Taiwan, and Pierre has been a consistent advocate for those ties. With his party's re-election, relations between the two countries will likely remain stable. Taiwan's economy is heating up. New data shows growth in most sectors, even as businesses say they're nervous about the months ahead. Figures from the Zhonghua Institution for Economic Research show November's Purchasing Managers Index, or PMI, was up for both manufacturing and services. Both sectors scored above 50, indicating expansion, but businesses' 6-month outlook is still negative, even though confidence improved over the previous month. Managers say they are worried about market uncertainty and the impact of U.S. tariffs. Researchers say the growth in manufacturing is being driven by demand for AI servers and year-end car sales. The service sector saw a boost thanks to shopping festivals. And for more on what the new CIER data means for Taiwan's economy, Chris Gorin spoke to Chen Xinhui, an analyst at the institution.
The new PMI data released by CIER shows growth in many sectors of Taiwan's economy. We know that much of Taiwan's growth comes from the tech and AI boom, but how are other sectors doing?
So while the PMI can be growing in the 2 months, you just get the answers because the high tech and the AI related product still quite strong. And now it's the end of the year, the December. For the brand company and the brand customer have given orders to 2026. So if one perform very well, they may make other divergence cannot be found in GDP. But if you see the industrial category, you will find, for example, material industry still very weak. Steel materials mostly are steel and the papers. If you have papers for box, and also if you see the chemical industry, for example, the petrochemical industry, still suffer by competing on China's industrial for lower price. Also for transportation industry.
While the data shows growth in much of the economy, the 6-month outlook of many of these businesses remains below 50, meaning not quite optimistic. Tariffs are often cited as a concern, but what else might be keeping these outlooks down?
And why people are still not optimistic about the future, but you should know that the contraction rate is slower compared to the previous months. This means that some people turn their future outlook to optimistic. That's because that for traditional industry, we just mentioned that. And for non-manufacturing, because the geopolitical risk still will high, so they are feel about uncertainty about the future. The uncertainty is not limit for the tariff. Tariff is just one kind of geopolitical risk. And geopolitical risk not happen in the demand of the industrial product, but also for the financial market. As I just mentioned, exchange rate, stock market, and the interest rate. Interest rate will impact people to buying car, buying house, and even to buying a machine for industry.
There's been a lot of discussion about a potential AI bubble or overinvestment in the tech industry. As you interview company managers for your surveys, have any of them expressed this concern to you?
So far, if I ask the different managers, they will have different story. Well, for some people, if you limitize the AI bubble to the infrastructure, they may have wondering, will we invest too much money on this infrastructure? But I have also interviewed some managers. They have produced some AI-related products, such as service. They say, no bubbles. We have number of orders, and the orders will be counted in million billions of United dollars. So if you talk about AI-related products, you should more detail to say infrastructure or the software or for robot in AI. I think you will get totally different answers.
That was Chen Xinghui of CIER. Over 1,000 people are dead and hundreds more missing across Asia as storms sweep the continent's tropical regions, leaving very few areas untouched. John Van Trieste reports.
For residents on the Indonesian island of Sumatra, shock and dismay, days after cyclonic storm CIER smashed into their homes. In Indonesia alone, 600 people are dead and close to 500 are missing. And flooding has killed around 200 more in nearby Thailand and Malaysia. Cyclones don't normally form so close to the equator, and survivors like Rosmina are still surprised at how sudden the floodwaters came.
Tiba-tiba ada orang lari dari kebun sana.
Suddenly, someone ran from the garden. Come on, run, run. The big water's coming, he said. So I immediately ran to save my child. Get out of this house. Save my child. The water from this house was already up to their knees.
Udah selutut mereka air dari rumah ini.
Not everyone was able to make it out in time. Muhammad Rais explains what happened to his family and their home. Now, nothing more than a plot of sludge.
How many people lived here?
There were 12 people here.
Did everyone survive?
No, we lost 2.
Who?
My mother and mother-in-law.
Southeast Asia isn't the only part of the continent facing shock and a massive cleanup. In Sri Lanka's capital, Colombo, Cyclone Ditwa may have passed, but low-lying streets are still flooded, motorboats replacing cars in some places. More than 300 people are dead, and over 200 more missing amid the flooding and mudslides. The country hasn't seen a storm like this in years, and the country's president says it's the largest natural disaster in Sri Lanka's history. That includes the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami.
The flood this time isn't as massive as the one in 2016, but the water level is actually about 7 feet higher than then.
In Sri Lanka, the suddenness of the floodwaters took some people by surprise.
In the night, things were normal, but the next morning, everything was underwater, including our house. 7 of us, including children, took refuge on the top floor. There are another 15 adults still there. Their houses are completely underwater.
Meanwhile, yet another storm, Koto, is approaching Vietnam, where it has already killed several people. It now threatens to cause more damage after weeks of heavy flooding in the country. And so, the devastation continues throughout Asia, with a large and growing death toll, homes and livelihoods damaged or destroyed, and a long and painful recovery still ahead. Delphine Chen and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. To end the show, we take you to Rio de Janeiro for fireworks marking the reveal of this 80-meter Christmas tree. I'm Yvonne. Take care. I'll see you next time.